mean, so I'm still give us the basic information about you being here. How long have you been here in Sandwich at this shop? How old's the shop? You know.
Want to get into that?
Just let's dive into it.
Well, when I bought this, you're standing, and this probably shouldn't go in there, but you're standing in a two-car garage. You know my house was a ranch house when I bought it? And this was a two-car garage. When you came through the door, there's actually a hole in the floor. There was a pit on that side. This remnants of one of the overhead doors. I gutted the whole thing and then added all new windows and doors, put a wood floor in. Second story of the house, I made a cape out of it. We've now been in a couple old house magazines.
I was going to say, because it looks like, this looks like an old house, but it's not. Is this old at all? Or?
No, nothing's old. So when you say how long have I been here, I've been here approximately 30 years. I've been doing this for 49 years. So we've had a lot of practice.
And what is how has the business kind of changed over time? You know, did it start with eagles? Did it start with signs, sculptures? Like what's the transition?
It started with signage.
Okay.
You know, the quarter board, as you probably know, was at one time mandated by maritime law to be on the quarter deck, and it had to be incised into the wood somehow, so you couldn't just change the lettering on it and be another boat if you wanted to, coming into a different port. So there's an interesting book called Moon Cusses that was written in 1918 in Chatham, and it was all about the people that rescued crews from shipwrecks. There used to be, before the canal went in between Chatham and P-Town, there used to be about 365 wrecks a year, almost as many as there were days. And they would rescue the crew, and you know, usually it was on those all the flats down there and everything. So then afterwards, so it, you know, usually cargoes, and if they could salvage that, they could get money from the owners. And then after that was done, if they were starting to break up, they would start to take stuff off the boat. If you know the history of the Cape Cod, you'll know it's pretty denuded by then. They cut the wood off, so there wasn't much for trees left on the Cape. So they would take a pilot house off to use for a pigsty to keep their pigs in, things like that. But they started taking, the last thing they would take off, believe it or not, was anything decorative, ship's wheels and figureheads and decorative carvings and quarter boards. And in that book, it talks about this guy went into a barn and saw over 100 quarter boards. It was pretty common. If you read Thoreau when he came to Cape Cod, he talks about seeing, I think he called them signs on buildings down Cape. And they were all over Chatham and all the way up through Orleans to P-Town. These quarter boards, they put them on barns just for decoration. And you still see them in bars. So somebody in Chatham, right after the war, late 40s, decided to try, that was back when there was no economy in the winter and there was still only one road to Boston. To keep somebody on in the winter, they decided to try and make these. Some rusticator from New York was in Chatham and saw one of the things. He said, you know, I'd like to get one of those. Who makes those? And somebody said, I can make those. And so they started making with Chatham, excuse me, with a router. And it kind of started a movement, which I actually believe I can trace as the resurgence of the carved sign in the country.
So it started, you're talking about people originally just hacking off quarter boards from ships and hanging them up as decorative pieces, and then when that became trendy, so to speak, people actually started making them at custom-made quarter boards that weren't for your boat. It was a sign.
Yep.
It was a quarter board style.
Yeah, quarter board style sign, exactly.
Which would be like this.
And yeah, that created demand, and you know, it got to the point where, as you say, it's an accurate word. It's trendy. Is that people said, "Oh, I guess I better have one of those in front of my business." And I happened to come along at the right time. All of those were done by machine, and there was one guy called David Holmes. I think he called his business the Yankee Whittler. And I kind of used to go in his shop, and I'm an old soul. I mean, that's why I made a ranch house look like a Cape house. And I just love all of this stuff, doing it by hand and wood and the feel of all this stuff. And I decided to make one for a business I had at the time. So I made a couple quarter boards that went along the back of my pickup truck. And then somebody said, well, the pickup truck was in 1940 and it needed the engine rebuilt. So I traded the guy rebuilt the engine. I did a big sign for his garage. The next thing I know, people were offering me money to do it. And I said, well, I'll try it one summer. By the end of the summer, I had help. I had to hire somebody.
That's crazy.
And that was, well, it was 47 years ago. I guess I did it for 2 or 3 years. It's kind of made some money at it, but it was a hobby that made money.
Well, we may go backwards. So
sure, that's all right. Jump around. I can do that.
Yeah. Well, again, when I was talking to you before, for me, we don't know the business or anything, so we can't really relate. But when you when a small business owner comes and they're at that point where they're just about to open up, say, and the last step is, okay, we got to get a sign, and maybe they're naive to think at first they're like, oh, let's go look and see what it costs to get a wooden sign, and I'm assuming they're probably sometimes shocked. It's like, oh, I had no idea it would cost that much. But what is it that people obviously there's a huge amount of wooden signs that you see all over Cape Cod. A lot of them are yours. Why is it special, or why is it important that you have a wooden sign versus or a hand carved sign versus another manufactured?
Yeah, I guess along with the hand carved sign comes a lot of other stuff. I mean, we've won a lot of national awards for sign design. We had the best sign in Massachusetts 2 different years, I think. It's not complicated, but it is. What happens is, there's no such thing as an average business, but I mean, it could be somebody that was in business, a law firm or a hairdresser or anybody. And if somebody comes in, the first thing they say is, how much money is it going to cost? And I try and turn the conversation right there. How much would you like the sign to increase your business? You're starting a business. How would you like to help this make sure that you stay in business? I mean, I was asked once when I was a member of the chamber, some guy went into Merchant Square and couldn't afford to have a sign, so he took a piece of plywood and hand painted it on it, and he got bagged by the town. They wanted to know if I'd go to the historic board and get him out of it. And I said, why don't we just make him a nice sign? Well, we can't afford it. And I'm saying, well, if he can't afford a sign, how can he afford to be in business? Is he getting inventory? As a chamber, we should be teaching this guy how to start a business. So a lot of people come in here looking for a sign, and the first thing they would say is, I want my name in 15-inch high letters, and I'm going to sell divots, so we'll put divots somewhere on the bottom. Well, the first thing we try and get people to do, we don't just offer the service of making signs, is designing signs. And designing a sign is like designing anything. What does a sign have to do? And one of the most amazing things to me, when I started asking people this, they really didn't know. Well, aren't I supposed to have a sign? Aren't I supposed to have a business card? And they're going in, especially a lot of people going into something they love. They want to make, whatever it is. They want to be a hairdresser. They want to make pottery. They want to, whatever. And we get them to, those are willing to, and that's most people spend the time at least processing it to some degree. What is it that they're trying to convey to somebody? We all know places like McDonald's. I mean, the big word today in business is brand yourself. Well, that's good for a lot of things, but if you're going to have a local ice cream shop, it's going to take quite a while to be able to do that. But if you're opening an ice cream shop, what is it that you're trying to say to somebody? I mean, number one, you have to tell them you have ice cream, but do you want to set yourself apart? I mean, it's little things. We did a sign recently on this stretch of road, and they said, well, we're really not too sure we care which color it is. And I said, well, do you want to stand out? And they said, yeah. And I said, well, drive up and down the road a couple of times and look at what color isn't there. If you put a pink sign up or whatever, nobody else has one, that's going to draw your eye more. So again, those kind of things, but again, the message. And most signs are who you are and what you are. Joe Blow, the lawyer, or what have you. And if you cannot, a lot of people say, well, I want to put all the things I sell on there, and that would take about 4 pages of type print. And that way you can read a sign. Go ahead.
Well, that makes sense. So it's an opportunity for them to express the quality of their business,
and the mission of the business. Yeah, the fact that we carve it. I mean, people begin to understand this isn't a sign shop. This is a professional sign shop, and that's the key word that we try with everything. We can. There isn't a question. I mentioned somebody acquired about 17 signs. I said, call me. Let's not email, because you're going to ask a question, I'm going to answer it, and that's going to cause another question. And it's people starting a business and haven't thought about this. I don't know if you're familiar with SCORE, but it's a great, either familiar with SCORE? SCORE stands for something or other retired executive. It's a free service all over the country. Right. Yeah. And they'll tell you the importance of a sign. The sign is the cheapest advertising you're going to have. I mean, you might spend several $1,000s for something now, but if you amortize it over, we just had a funeral home from Pennsylvania brought this sign back. It was 19 years old. And they took it down the week before to bring it to it. Well, you divide it by 365 times 19, it's a pretty cheap, a lot cheaper than any other form of advertising you can have. Yeah. And it reflects your business. There used to be a group called Vision from Cambridge, Mass. They came to Sandwich once, and they had a simple concept. They would have a screen, 2 screens, and a camera, and they would put 2 businesses up, similar type, let's say restaurants, up on the screen. They say, which one would you rather eat at? It's that simple. How do you get somebody to want to do business? Obviously, if you're getting, you know, a high quality, really nice, classic looking sign might not be the thing you'd want if you're selling discount patio furniture and having yard sales.
Yeah, the sign is the first impression anyone has.
Yeah, along with, you know, you need to keep the lawn mowed and paint your building and all that kind of stuff. And people don't seem to understand that it's all of that that makes an impression. If your front of your building needs paint and your sign's leaning over, then they're going to assume you're not going to make anything that's going to help their business. So we have an interesting clientele, and they're not necessarily the people you think they were. They're people that are smart enough to know it's smart to spend 30% more money on this. And it's not just because you can carve, because there's other carvers too. They come to us because they know we've helped businesses.
That's great. I didn't know that you guys did design aspects of it as well.
Yeah.
I had no idea, so that's huge. Okay, well, let's talk about then Eagles.
Yep.
That's another.
Well, I just turned 76. When I was getting close to 65 and thought I would want to slow down, I thought I would get into something smaller. I think we mentioned I've done some pretty good size signs that, you know, 10 feet by 18 feet size signs out of wood. I was thought, well, I'm going to get slowed down a little. I want something I can handle a little easier. 3 or 4 or 5 foot long eagles are nice. And we used to carve a lot of eagles on signs. And I've always liked eagles. So I decided to do more of that. And the next thing I was promoting it a little bit. And then I kind of got known for it now. We ship them. We do more eagles out of New England than we do in New England. We just did a big court system in Georgia. And actually we sent one. When did we just send one to a lawyer in Georgia, Dan?
Yeah, the last one sent out.
Is that something that you, I mean, has that, I don't really know much about the history of
Yep.
Eagles on signs, but has that become a staple of, or a signature of your signs, or is it Eagles very common all over?
Yeah. Well, the symbol is. I mean, it was it was the symbol of the country, and it was used in everything in the beginning. So, you know, courthouses use it and things like that. So, and people in the military. So, no, it doesn't relate so much to my signs. It was, you know, I mean, I've done many signs where somebody said, and can you put an eagle on the building too? I mean, that just says something they feel more to their clientele of who they are.
Sure. Okay. And the eagle designs, what are they inspired by anything? I noticed you have 6 or so different ones that are at least your standards. Are those based on, you know, like on anything, or is that the kind?
Well, it's amazing when you get into something how much history there is.
Yeah.
Probably the country's most famous eagle carver came from Kittery, Maine, and did a very famous eagle in Portsmouth for the Navy back in either late 1800s, early 1900s. It was a military ship, but it was a sailing ship, and it had a 6-foot wingspread figurehead, and it's in a museum in Newport News, Virginia, or survived. But he also made a lot of small stylized eagles that have survived. And they used to sell for $5 or $6 a piece. They now sell for $50,000 to $150,000 each. So they're collectible. There's a lot of old ones around that are antiques that were on courthouses or buildings like that, and military families. So it's stayed a popular symbol for a lot of people. We did one for Arnold Schwarzenegger, for the governor's mansion. You know, I mean, that's the kind of, we do courthouses, but we also do lawyers' offices and just plain people who want to put one in their foyer or outside over their barn or.
Cool.
Yep.
Was I gonna ask another question about? Oh yeah, well, some simple facts. Do you have any idea how many signs you've made over the years? It's a really hard one. But
No, when I turned 65, we changed to the numbering system of our work orders. And I think since since I turned 65, which was roughly 10 years ago, we've done another 3,500 and some odd jobs. Now, I just got an inquiry for a town. They're looking for 17 signs for their cemeteries. So that might be but I might get somebody come in and just want an open sign for their business. I would say we probably average 3 for each job order we have on average. Like we're doing a job with 4 pieces in it here, and it's very common. So it's up in the thousands, way up in the thousands.
how about materials? What are the materials that you work with in terms of the wood, synthetic stuff to?
Yeah, we started off with mostly pine. We went very quickly from northern or native to this area pine and got into Western sugar pine, which was readily available. We've written a number of articles for magazines on what substrate do you use for signage. And I teach wood carving, and one of the things we get into is what wood do you use and why. And there's no perfect wood. If there was, everybody'd use it. But all the things you'd be looking for: rot resistant, holes paint, pretty clear, readily available, reasonable in price, on and on and on. If you started thinking about it, you come up with a lot of things. There is no perfect wood. Some of the woods that are rot resistant, like cedar or cypress or redwood, are very, very pricey, and they're not bad to carve, but they're not the best to carve. Others, like the local pine now, are all pines that we get now. Wood has changed over the years, and nobody's quite sure why. We know they send them through the kilns quicker, so they break down the structure of the wood a little bit quicker. Also, the soil conditions that change. One of the things I can tell you, and you probably don't want this in your film, but I take a lot of pride in what I do. And when I put a sign up somewhere, when I first started, most everything was local. And I go by 2 or 3 months later and look at the sign. I might go by a couple of years later and look at a sign. And probably 10 years ago, I started to go look at some of the signs we had done within the last month to 3 months. And when I saw the first one, it had like little black spots and stuff, gooey stuff, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And I was thinking it was actually for the Cape Cod Conservative. And I thought, well, they're accelerating and pushing exhaust fumes. And then it happened again, another sign. And then all of a sudden, I'm seeing in all my signs now, it's just air pollution. And it's affecting the finish, so your paints don't last as long. But anyway, back to woods. Synthetics have come along. They now make a material. It's a high-density urethane. It's like a coffee cup, only you can buy it as hard as a brick. It carves just like wood. You can take a fine shaving. It's the same, similar. It's plastic and air, but it's totally rot resistant. And the most interesting thing to us is we started using it in response to people who were replacing an antique. We did an 11-foot figurehead for a maritime museum in Philadelphia. It rotted off the boat. We're doing a big eagle. Did you see it? Is the back door open?
It's not.
No.
Well, if you look, there's a 6-foot eagle out there we're doing for the old City Hall in Boston. 2 wooden ones were carved and rotted off the building. So it's historic stuff that we're using this new material for, which is kind of interesting. Because it's closed cell and it'll never rot or check or whatever. So we found that kind of interesting.
Is it like a cop-out, though, do you feel? Like, is there bitter feeling behind that at all? Or is it...
It's not bitter. I mean, I'm 76 and I love what I do. And I marvel to this day. I get up every day and have a good day. I marvel. People pay me to do this. It just blows me away. Who gets to play all day and get paid for it? But I'm a wood carver. And if I had to carve all the stuff out of this urethane, I would probably go, I don't know, sell real estate or be a bartender or something. But as long as I get to do the majority of the stuff in wood, it's okay. I don't like it. It's gritty. I have the feeling if I get a little bit of mahogany of pine in my lung, it'll eventually rot and go away. If I get this stuff, I think it's going to be there forever. So yeah, I don't like it as well. More than that, one of the things that's changed with that is, when I started out, everything literally, well, almost everything was literally done by hand. You laid out on a piece of paper and transferred it, and we mixed a lot of our own colors. And my first job, I drove to Hyannis to get a piece of wood from Lumberyard and a quart of paint from the paint store and the art supply to pick up a book of gold leaf. And now we probably stock 15, 20 different types of wood.
All right, well, let's also try this to, we're doing okay on time, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, fine. Let's, it might work well at some point in the video if you can give us a step-by-step, and this will get cut down if we use it way shorter, but the process of someone saying, I want a sign, and then you say, okay, we're going to make one for you, from start to finish, what happens? So literally, from choosing the wood to carving it, to sanding it, and then painting it.
Yep.
And we might be able to get some good shots of
Yeah,
that actual
definitely.
process. But yeah, if you could just give a run through of they want a sign, and then like you said, the design process, choosing the wood, carving and bolting.
Yep.
Go.
Oh, I thought you
Do it
meant.
right now. No,
Well,
I
I'm
mean,
gonna.
you could kind of,
What I'll do is I'll come up with either a real sign or hypotheticals. And did you see what's out there? That might be a good sign.
No, that's what I mean. What we can do is we can actually get shots of you doing it, but if you can walk through it.
Can you see what that is?
Mr. Vaduz?
Yeah, that's Mr. Votto, Joe Votto.
Oh, Joe Votto, is that the?
Yep, he's opening a new fish market.
Oh,
Payson told me, I couldn't believe it.
That's controversial, Paul.
Yes, I know.
Well, can you talk about how that came to be? I mean, he came up to that kind of process.
Yeah. Yeah, we've done minor work for them before, but I'm trying to think. It might pay to actually come up with something. You're not looking to finish this up by tomorrow afternoon, so to speak.
No, we're not. And
So if
again,
I could come up with something, you could. How long does it take to come in and just shoot something quick, like a step?
we can
Locals,
do
it's easy,
really
yeah.
quick. Yeah.
Yeah.
It take 15 minutes.
Yeah. So if you're not in a big hurry, why don't we sell enough work that I'll come up with something in the next week or two that,
That'd be great.
We can
and
follow
maybe
from
the
start to
process
finish.
and yeah.
No, that'd be good. I mean, the only thing I was looking for here is that you talk over, and then but we can get a sound bite at each step, so we don't
Yeah.
have to. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's probably enough right now.
Right.
That would probably be the most helpful for viewers. I think for you too is
Yep.
people seeing a very sped up version of what.
Well, I can also talk about all the whys, the things we just talked about. Why what is this design trying to do? And then the viewer can say it does or it doesn't to them. I mean,
Well, that's what I feel like.
all the
is
way
really-
down right through the whole thing, because one of the things we pride ourselves in how long they last, so we can get through the process of why that happens.
Right, and why these last long
Yeah.
within the.
Yep.
Yeah, because I think that's probably got to be the biggest. I'd imagine the selling point is like, man, why is it worth putting, some thought and some money into making my sign? And hopefully a lot of people already recognize that, but there's definitely some people who don't need to be sold on it. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a pretty good percentage every year of people who open a brand new business never having been in business before.
Right.
And those are the people that put very little thought into it. And I cannot tell you how many people come to me in business for 10 years and they suddenly decide, boy, the sign's important. A friend of mine got one and it helped their business. Can you do that for me? And absolutely. And that usually comes from somebody we helped.
Yeah. Yeah.
Word of mouth is our best.
I imagine.
Yeah.
No.
Like
because
anything.
It's easier to have somebody, your friend convince you that it's important than it is to have the person. Make it.
Well, I mean, if somebody, a friend of yours tells you their business increased by 30%, they're going to, what'd you do?
Proof in the pudding.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's true. It would be definitely interesting to get that whole process, and even choosing, like I said, choosing the wood.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. We can get some shots going into the barn and just
Yep.
sifting through.
Yeah.
Do you think it's beneficial to talk at all about? Yeah.
You're going to get drowned out. I'm pretty close.
Oh, the rail.
Yeah, it's right out the back door.
But right after that passage, you can start talking about just the art of woodworking and the craft of it. That has kind of a not quantifiable value to it. Is that something that comes into play at all? Or do you even think about that? As far as kind of just it's a piece of art in a sense, a piece of work, versus going and just purchasing a sign, like a metal sign from a company or a factory. Is that something that you?
Yeah, I think that, again, it's all part of the process. I mean, I think I'm an old soul. I don't know how to explain that to you. I have a ranch house. If you go to my house, you're going to find my refrigerator has wood panels on the door and tiger maple handles on my refrigerator.
Yeah.
You can't see my dishwasher. You know what a pie safe is? Go ahead, you had a question.
Yeah.
I'll
No,
remember.
well, I think like for Titan, again, I think we're coming from this perspective of, do people look at it? Do people come in and they say, I want a wooden sign because I appreciate good art and I appreciate quality. Obviously that's inherent in the way that you think.
But it's the
is
same
that
thing with my
something that-
dad's shop. Like, you don't go there to buy just a wine glass.
Right.
You want to buy a piece of craft that's crafted by humans and
Yep.
by man. And do you kind of preach that to people? Or?
Well, no, I don't preach it. No, one of the things you see, I don't have a very big sign.
Right.
Yeah, I know.
And-
I was actually noticing that.
And most people who don't know what's in here, how do I word this? You can go to the Christmas tree shop, okay, and get a wine glass.
Right.
There's a portion, and I don't want to get into the numbers because it's depressing, that wouldn't know the difference between that and your dad's. And I wouldn't know the difference. They don't care and they think they're the same. I asked the question to when we're talking on this subject, do you or your parents or whatever, or how many people do you know who own original piece of art? Pretty interesting question. Not a lot. Even our friends, not a lot.
No,
You know,
I mean,
if you can't get it at IKEA or at the Christmas tree shop, do you need it? I mean, that's the mentality of a lot of people. Right now, society is all about having more for the money. So if you can get 3 for the price of one real good one,
So that's how, because you're obviously doing well, but how do you, that's I guess the big question though, is how do you, in a society where that's what's important.
Well, if you have the opportunity, you can show people it's important. Number one, when people, the world has changed. When you go to buy a refrigerator, they say, do you want a 5-year warranty, extra extended warranty plan with it or something? I think people more and more don't even expect things to last. I don't know. And when that's something people used to, be concerned with. It's not so much now. But when you tell somebody, we're going to guarantee the thing for 8 to 9 years. You don't have to touch it. You don't have to do anything. We'd like you to turn it once a year. There's a little bit of maintenance involved. And they look at you like, really? But then on top of it, you can say it's going to help your business. And I don't think we have to go 20 businesses need a deduction here. I can get you 10 people to tell you it helped our business. And that's when you're a business. But the other thing, we do a lot of residential work.
Yeah.
And residential, it's more... One of the things that we do is we can make something that somebody can't get anyplace else. 10 years ago, we did a fireplace surround, and it had 2 mermaids on it. And the woman wanted the mermaids' faces to be her 2 daughters. Where do you can't go on Amazon and order that.
Yeah, right.
I told you about putting the window in a box. Where do you go to get that kind of stuff done? Somewhere we just did a sign. I mean, where do you go to get this? This is a guy who wants feng shui on his house in Maine. Where do you go to get those? Christmas tree shop? I mean, it's...
Well, that's what I was thinking about for you said for the old town hall, that thing you're making, the giant kind of medallion.
Yeah.
I mean, you can buy that anywhere. You can get that anywhere. So it's kind of, you do have it is a different kind of business versus something like my dad's business that you could literally get a replica, get a wine glass here, get a wine glass there. For you, I think it's a different.
Well, there's both, because then in your dad's business, the same thing. It's that person who wants something. They value something, and they can make a connection to the person. And there's a whole, it's complicated and it's different for different people. I don't know. I mean, part of people buy stuff for value. I've had 2 friends say, well, that was a year ago. I've already had one buy one. Say, I got to get one of your eagles before you die, because it's got to go up in value.
That's cool.
I mean, because they know it has value. Stuff we did 20 years ago, like eagles, the artwork, it's selling more at auction now for what we charged for it back then. What can you sell that's like that?
Yeah. It just goes out, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
pretty rewarding. Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible. That's a little morbid in a positive way what your friend said.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
I guess it's
The whole thing is just cool.
Yeah.
It's just, right, Dan?
It is.
Yeah.
Dan's slaving away over there.
Well, Dan, he's got an incredible outfit.
Right now.
Yeah, this is where he wants to be.
Yeah, that's really cool. Actually, yeah, I don't know if we want to get anything of Dan too.
Yeah, how many you have Dan here, and then is that
I have 3 part-time people that, yeah. Dan says he doesn't want to be interviewed, but I bet you could twist his arm.
We definitely want to get some shots up at the paint studio.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Okay.
I'm just not good on camera. But
How do you know that?
Dan?
I don't
First,
know.
you might be the next
Yeah, we
Arnold Schwarzenegger or something.
could try something, but you might not want to use it.
Yeah, it might be good. Are you doing a lot of the painting now, Dan? Is that?
Yeah, and actually I'm sizing right now.
Okay.
I'm gonna gild pretty soon.
Because that might
We're
be.
doing some painting on this eagle that we finished.
Okay. We want to get some of that stuff over.
Yeah, we have some time, but yeah, I think that's a great start. We're gonna grab some shots of the place. That's cool.
Unless there's anything else while you're mic'd up.
No, I think we did what gives you a feel for things and where I'm coming from and what have you, and what's important to me, and what you can squeeze into that. I would think it would be very helpful for anybody to get through the process of.
Do you,
No,
do you
'cause
actually
then
have? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say that makes it more friendly too. When
Yeah.
people, I just know that apprehension of, oh man, a custom sign like that. If you can kind of like make that process simple and fun visually, I think that makes it really inviting for.
Do you have anybody that, I don't know if you mentioned that before, but any people that you've worked with that you sold a sign to that would be interested in being on camera, kind of testimonial?
I don't know if they'd be interested, but they'd be willing to do it.
There you go. That was great.
Yeah, I
More
mean,
for it.
I think a lot of these people, I can remember, do you know the Black Cat and Hyenas?
Yeah, the tavern.
Yeah. Well, I did that sign, I don't know how many years ago. Well, there again, how long, you know what that's made out of? Balsa wood.
No way.
Yep.
It's outside.
Yeah. You know what you do? You paint it. You keep it sealed, and you don't have a problem.
Easy.
Yeah. It's been there, God, I don't know. Been there a long, long time.
That.
Huh?
That sounds like a nightmare to carve.
Wasn't well. We've got. I show us in the slide presentation. The cat's pretty big on it, and I'm starting with a chainsaw.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
But that that guy took a lot of pride in his sign. These people do. They take a pride in their business. They take a pride in what they do,
Yeah.
how they do it, like your father must, or he wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
You got to take pride in that. So does a good lawyer or a good guy that sells gas. He does it better than other people. Or, people that take pride in what they do.
I think that's actually probably a good statement. Yeah, definitely.
That was great. That was a great finish.
But yeah, I can come up with a bunch of people if you want.
Yeah, that would be great.